Hello everyone, I'm Matt from Matt's Bookshelf, and today I'm doing another book haul video. My friends, as you might know, Drunzo and Tyler Talks, all went to a bookstore last weekend and bought a bunch of books, but I'm the only one who's going to do a book haul video because I need the views. So as the title is going to suggest, it's not a very impressive book haul. I don't buy 65 books at once and never read them. I buy just like a couple, and I do read them over the course of several months. And just as a reminder to people who watch this, my Road to Ulysses idea came from my last book haul video because I had bought a couple of James Joyce books, and I had mentioned briefly that I wanted to read Ulysses. And I got a lot of my comments were directed around that, about, wishing me luck with reading Ulysses or their own experiences with reading Ulysses. So I just want to remind everyone that these book club videos sort of serve as a message to me as to what kind of content people want to see from my channel. The Road to Ulysses series would never have existed without doing my book haul video. So you make sure you leave in the comments what you want to see, or what books I grabbed interest you, if there are any books I bought that interest you, because it gives me a good idea as to what kind of content you want to see in the future. So first I have Cicero's On Government. It's a Penguin classic, as you can tell from here. Mark, or John's, as you know him, pointed this out to me, and I bought it. And I'm a huge fan of ancient Rome in general, specifically the time of Cicero, and obviously the tumultuous time of the transition from a Roman Republic to an empire. And for those of you who don't know, Cicero was a senator and orator and former consul of the Roman Republic during the time and the transition from a republic to an empire led by Julius Caesar. He's a very influential figure at this time and very divisive and prone to cause conflict during this time, especially between different parties vying for power, whether it be Caesar, Pompey, eventually Brutus and Cassius, Octavius, Marcus Antonius. He was a character who played a role in all these different battles and all these different wars that would change Rome and change Western society as we know it forever. And I'm very excited to see this because he's a very intelligent man. He has some of the best speeches, or arguably he may even be the best writer and orator in Roman history. So I'm very excited to read this because I have read some of his speeches online before, just randomly, but I never have actually read a collection of this. And it is about, it's over 300 pages long, so a lot of good stuff will probably come from this. So this will probably be very insightful for me as to what Roman politics was like at the time, because I read Julius Caesar's Civil War commentaries, and obviously it's written by Caesar, so I'm expecting a very biased source. So it'll be interesting to see this from Cicero's perspective as someone who wanted to uphold the Republic and as someone who believed in the ideals of the Republic. It'll be interesting to get his perspective on all this that's going on. Usually wars and character get the most attention in Roman history, so I think it'll be fascinating to see what Roman politics were like at the time, especially because from Caesar's perspective, and as history has remembered it, the Roman Republic was kind of dying, and it was run by very selfish senators and rulers, and there was a huge class divide, and that's how Caesar kind of came to power. So Cicero's perspective will be interesting to see if he is see if we can find some sort of honesty between the accounts of Caesar and the accounts of Cicero as I read both. Next up, I have Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. I read my first Hemingway book actually a couple months ago, and that was The Sun Also Rises, and I loved it so much. Hemingway's style took a little while for me to get into, but as I got into it more and kept reading through Sun Also Rises, I grew to appreciate it. And also the PBS documentary that came out a month ago. It's like a 3-part, in total 6-hour-long documentary on Ernest Hemingway's life, and the man is very morally dubious being a generous word, but you cannot deny how fascinating he is and how he lived a very crazy and storied life, and the 6 hours of the documentary are never boring at all, so that goes to show how wild this man was during his lifetime. And he continued to live a wild life from about his late teens all the way until the end of his life. And For Whom the Bell Tolls is it's a fiction story, but it's also very inspired by his time working as a war reporter during the Spanish Civil War. And Hemingway himself could never really settle down. He would briefly move back home to the U.S. or live in Cuba and write and live with his family, but it was never the same as for him as when he was in the war, when he was traveling, when his life was on the line. Starting from his time serving in World War I, when he was a medic, but eventually would go to the front lines because he felt that that was where people were really making the most impact on the war. But he continued to get himself involved in these conflicts, both with the Spanish Civil War years later and World War II, as starting out as correspondent, as a wartime journalist, but as you see in the PBS documentary, especially in World War II, he was in the front lines and he was attacking Nazis in France and in Germany. So he was a man who would not sit back and let other people do work for him. As divisive a figure as he may be, watching the documentary and having read The Sun Also Rises, I am really interested in seeing more of his work. So I know For Whom the Bell Tolls is one of his better works, and it came during a time where he was sort of in a slump, but this book sort of reignited interest in his writing again. And I think there's more value in a fictional story with real-life influences. I mean, if For Whom the Bell Tolls was written by someone who wasn't actually involved in the Spanish Civil War, I would probably be less interested in buying it. But now I know that Ernest Hemingway was very involved in this war and was literally a first-hand account of it, I'm very interested in reading this book. And it'll probably jump the line for books that I have to read, because I have quite a few stacked up now, but I'm pretty sure once I'm done with Crime and Punishment, I'll probably be getting right into For Whom the Bell Tolls, because I'm really, really excited to read it. So this wouldn't be a Matt's Bookshelf book haul without James Joyce works. At this bookstore we went to, it was like a thrift bookstore that had a lot of these books, and it had 2 James Joyce books stored, so they get like the J section. There are some James Joyce books in the front, but way in the back where you couldn't see the borders were these 2 books, in the dusty part of the back of the shelf. And I picked them up and I read them, and I had no idea that they ever existed. So I'm just going to read the synopsis to these so you have a better idea of what they are, because honestly, I hadn't read them, I never heard of them until last week, so I can't really say very honestly what they are about. So for Giacomo Joyce, the plot synopsis right here is as follows. This gem-like work, when it was first published in a limited edition in January 1968, was graded as a literary find of the first magnitude. It is an autobiographical love story written by Joyce in Trieste, most probably in 1914, when he was 32. That was the year which he began Ulysses and the play Exiles, and wrote the last 2 chapters of The Portrait of the Artist as a young man. A sequence of sharply edged incidents and lyrical impressions that display its hero's erotic commotion over a girl pupil to whom he was teaching English. It is at once the story of Joyce's attempt at a sentimental education of a dark lady, his ride farewell to youth, and his experiment in a new form of imaginative expression. Joyce copied the story out in his best calligraphic hand in the 16 pages of a large-sized school notebook or sketchbook, and left it in Trieste, where his brother, Stanislaus, kept it safe for nearly half a century. So if that doesn't interest you, I don't know what will. Just for some background on Joyce at this time, and if you're confused as to why he's in Trieste, he was born in Ireland, but as you see in Portrait of the Artist as a young man, he gets very frustrated with Ireland at the time, whether it be the influences of Irish nationalism or Catholicism. He finds both to be very artistically restricting, and therefore he literally has to leave Ireland in order to pursue his own artistic career, pursue his own passion of writing. So he goes to Italy, which is Trieste, which is more towards Greece. It's not where like the foot is. It's kind of like on the side, as I said, more towards Greece. And he goes there with his wife Nora, and they have children there at the time, I believe. From there, he teaches English for a time, and would periodically go back to Ireland. So this seems to be, as the synopsis says, very influential from his time teaching in Italy, in Trieste. And if you look at the book, first of all, you get this awesome picture of Joyce playing guitar, I think. Oh, he's in Zurich at this time. And then he would soon be going to Trieste. And you have some instances where you have copies of his writing here. So I think this is what they're talking about. So you have some of Joyce's actual writing here, which is pretty cool. Photocopied, clearly, but at least you get to see it. Also, we have James Joyce in Padua, which is a collection of his essays he had to write in order to be qualified as an English teacher in Italy. So, if you can believe it, he is actually writing in Italian in these essays. They're translated, so you have the Italian original and the English translation. As someone who is okay at reading some Italian, I'm going to attempt to read it in Italian, but thankfully there are English translations in this, so when I eventually give up, I will have the English to rely back on. I said it with my American shirt on. And 2 of the essays in the story are The Universal Literary Influence of the Renaissance and The Centenary of Charles Dickens. I haven't started reading these yet, so when I do read them, I'll probably be doing both of these short little books in the same video. It's only 2 essays, but these are, it's a relatively decent sized book, and there are notes in there as well as examinations from officials of the University of Padua. So there's a lot here, and especially seeing his writing in Italian, because at this point the more Joyce the better, as I've just finished 14 Yards of a Man and Exile, so everything I can do to prepare for Ulysses is appreciated. And finally, I have maybe my favorite book from this video, or the book I'm most looking forward to read in this video, and it is Edgar Allan Poe's collection of short stories and poems. I did not buy this at the bookstore. My friend Mark, as you know him as Drunzo, bought me this for my birthday because it happened recently, and I've always wanted to read more Edgar Allan Poe. I read him in high school, and I liked everything that I read by him. Some of his poems, some of his short stories, mainly Telltale Heart, The Raven, the one where the sweet Lenore something. I could look it up, but I'm not going to look up the poem name. It's Lenore one, you know which one I'm talking about. And the one where he traps that guy, where there's this character that traps another guy in a cave down in a vault. That one was pretty good. Can't remember what it's called though. But I've started reading some of the poems in this, and the artwork is really cool on the front. I like the sort of modernist style of it, with its like basic colors and all that, and this cool spider web at the back. It has this gold paper on the side, which looks really cool, and on the inside has more spider webs. So that's awesome, and it's very well organized too. So it starts with the short stories. Well, first it starts with an introduction, and has the short stories all listed here. Some more short stories, and then the poems. But the poems are cool because they are sort of arranged they're sort of arranged thematically. So there's poems of later life, there's poems of manhood, poems of youth, and he wrote way more short stories and poems than I could have ever imagined. So, Mark, if you're watching this video, a big thank you. I'm enjoying it so far. I would have another book or something else, but Tyler Talks, my supposed friend, first of all, didn't get me a birthday present, which is very disappointing in itself. Second of all, he wished me happy birthday on the wrong day. So he forgot when my birthday was, and we've been friends for 8 years. So, I really hesitate to say friend now, because it seems like the truth of how he views me is really coming into fold now, is really getting out there, and I don't think he really likes me at all. And I'm very disappointed because, I bought him a really cool basketball book, a book on basketball for his birthday, and I guess the favor was not returned. So let Tyler know in his channel that he's a bad friend, and that, I don't know, that he stinks or whatever. So that is my book haul video. I'm sorry if it's underwhelming, but I do not buy 100 books at once, because what would be the point? Where would I fit 100 books? What is the point of buying 100 books all at once? It's kind of stupid. I don't know. It's really weird, but I hope you enjoyed that. So, as I said in the beginning of the video, let me know what you want to see, because it really helps me understand what kind of content I should be making on my channel, because I'm interested in all these books. So, whichever ones you think are interesting, let me know, because I don't really have a preference. I'm probably going to read From the Bell Tolls soon, regardless as if people are interested or not. But other than that, I'm going to probably be doing videos on most of these as well, and different types of videos or whatever. So, if you want to know what's coming up next on my channel, I have a review for Giuseppe Lampedusa's The Leopard coming out next week, and then the week after I will probably be talking about, if I record it, I'm starting to write the script now, I will probably be talking about James Joyce's play Exiles. So if you are part of the Road to Ulysses read-along series that I'm doing, you should probably read Exiles. It'll probably be coming out the video in 2 weeks. That's plenty of time to read Exiles if you're interested in reading it and do some research on it, because it's good, and I think that if you like portrait, or if you like Joyce in general, that you will probably enjoy Exiles to a certain extent. And also check out Drunzo's channel. Don't check out Tyler Talks' channel because he's a bad friend, or try to check him out. I don't know. Who cares? Yeah. And check out my videos as well, because I have a lot of great videos on my channel that you should watch and subscribe and all that good stuff. And thank you, and goodbye.